Accept abundance. The philosophy of riches. Someone has said, most people are always getting ready to live, but they never really live. Is this true about you? Are you always planning on what you will do when you have that first $1 million? Do you keep putting off that vacation you want to take, the trip to visit your family, the trip to Europe? Are you constantly reminding yourself of the wonderful things you are going to do when you retire? If so, then you are not applying the philosophy of our $1 million secret to your life. It is in the eternal now that you must live. It is now that you must accept abundance. Now is the right time to make that move to another house, to a better job, to a bigger income. But how? You may ask. For all about you are the evidence of your inability to make such radical changes. If this is true in your life, then I want you to study this chapter over and over, until the philosophy of the $1 million secret is so deeply ingrained in your mind that you will never forget it. As rich as you think you are. I once knew a man who had made $1 million in California real estate. He had moved into the Wilshire Boulevard district in the Depression years and bought up many lots. He saw real estate boom and sold at the highest prices. When I met him, he was already in his early 60s. I said to him, "Now, with all your money, you can take it easy and begin to do some of the things you've always wanted to do with money." Do you know this man's answer? He said, "Oh no, I can't stop now. I feel very insecure with only $1 million. I need at least $2 million more to back it up." 2 years later, this man died of a heart attack. He never lived to enjoy his money. A famous movie star, Clark Gable, had a strenuous life. He accumulated a fortune, and when he was in his middle age, he could have taken a well-earned rest and enjoyed his sports and hobbies. Do you know what he told me one day at lunch? "I have a baby coming. I've got to keep making pictures to secure his future. I don't have enough to retire." A year later, Clark Gable was dead. He never lived to see the little son who was on the way. He left over $1 million. With this type of philosophy regarding riches, no man is ever satisfied with what he has. This is the secret I want to share with you. You will never have enough money to satisfy you. You are as rich as you think you are. You can begin this moment, no matter what financial circumstances you are in, to think, act, look, and live like a millionaire. Accept the abundance about you. Right here and now, if you will look about you, in whatever circumstances you are in, you are richer than many people. You can begin to accept the abundance that is all about you in this moment and feel that you are rich. If you have your health, this is worth more than $1 million. The late John D. Rockefeller, with all his hundreds of millions, had an artificial stomach and couldn't enjoy a good steak. You can enjoy your food. You can sleep well at night. Your conscience is clear. You do not have to worry about being imprisoned for taxes you owe the government. You can enjoy your wife and children, your friends and neighbors, without being excessively rich. I remember one day I was at a barber shop having a haircut. I saw a pompous, obviously rich and important man next to me, and the whole shop was dancing attendance on him. He had the works, from manicure to shoe shine, massage, shampoo, everything. He wore a huge diamond tie-pin in the shape of a horseshoe. His clothes were expensively tailored. When he left, he gave everyone a $1 tip. The shoeshine boy said enviously, "Boy, I wish I could change places with that guy." The barber who had waited on him said, "You do? Do you know who that guy is? He's a big-shot gambler and racketeer. His young wife recently ran off with another man. His 6-year-old boy was killed by a drunken driver. He has ulcers and a very bad heart condition. His money can buy him everything but health, love, happiness, peace of mind, and heaven." Live in the eternal now. There is the answer to man's eternal, unending quest for more and more material treasures. There is the philosophy of riches. Never want more than you can conveniently use. Never wait for a more opportune moment to begin to live the life you desire. Do not put off living until some future day when you have more money, more time, better circumstances. That time may never come. Live in the eternal now. This is the future of which you dreamed all through your yesterdays. There is no other future but this moment, as far as you know. So live it up fully and enjoy every second of it. Spend the money you have and depend on the knowledge in this book to keep a steady stream of riches flowing through your life, blessing you, enriching you, and then going on to enrich the world. Money is like a flowing river. Andrew Carnegie said of fortune, "It will someday be considered a sin for men to die rich." He made hundreds of millions of dollars, but he had the fun of spending most of them while he was alive. He gave it away to charities, 1,200 public libraries, museums, art galleries, educational institutions. He enjoyed making money, he lived fully and well every moment, and he had the additional fun of sharing his riches. That is the philosophy of our $1,000,000 secret. There is nothing wrong with making money, having a fortune and spending it. The Bible does not say money is evil. It says, the love of money is the root of all evil. In the 2nd chapter of Genesis, 28th verse, it also says, "And God looked upon the gold of the land and saw that it was good." What is good cannot be evil, but it can be used for destructive purposes. And gold, when it is selfishly used or monopolized, is a canker of the soul that can destroy individuals or nations. Money is like a flowing river. It must flow in and through your life, and then go on to bless others. The fate of the 10 richest men in the world. During the Depression years, there were 10 of the richest men in the world, whose lives had been made up by a quest for gold. They never knew when to stop. They achieved their billions of dollars, and they ruled industry, chemicals, financial institutions. Do you want to know what happened to them? Each of these men who literally worshipped gold and had little time to enjoy life, wound up suicides, imprisoned for fraud, broke, or in other ways disgraced. Not one knew when to stop and begin to live. Now, this sad statistic does not mitigate against the philosophy of the $1,000,000 secret. Make all the money you want, legitimately and wisely. But while you're doing this, live. 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 What keeps you from attracting abundance? There are several forces that fight man's acquisition of wealth and supply. If you know what keeps you from attracting abundance, you can set to work at once to remove these restraining forces and accept abundance here and now. 1. Fear of riches. Most people are afraid to think they could ever become wealthy. They have been so used to the idea that they were born poor and must remain poor that they forget the world is teeming with abundance. All they need do is accept it. Under every square mile of the Earth's surface, science says, there are literally millions of dollars worth of treasures. The government will give away millions of acres of land for those who care to go out to a Western homestead. All they need do is to write to the government for literature on this subject. The Northwest is teeming with riches in lumber and agricultural products. If people really want to get away from the squalor of tenements and the poverty of the overcrowded cities. But most people are afraid to take the chance of giving up a good-paying job, which they hate, and risk getting some other work, or striking out on their own in a new business, a new location, or a strange environment. Remove fear, and you will begin to move towards your rightful place in the economic scale of life. 2. Greed and selfishness. These two emotions are negative and motivate millions of people. When we have greed and selfishness as dominating emotions, they tend to cripple our minds and blind us to the true values of life. An Oriental farmer once went to a fair. There he saw a magician turning beans into gold. His greed got the best of him, and he thought, if I could have that secret, I'd be a rich man. He offered the magician his farm and all he owned for the secret. The magician made him sign the deed, giving him his land, and then proceeded to show him the magic secret that would turn the beans to gold. He held a bin in his fingers and dropped it. At the same time, he said the magic word, abracadabra. And presto, the bin had changed into a shining nugget of purest gold. The farmer was delighted. He grabbed the bag of beans and started away. But the magician stopped him and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you one part of the magic formula. When you say the magic word abracadabra, you must not at the same time think of a white elephant. If you do, it will ruin the magic." The farmer smiled and said, "Oh, that will be easy," and rushed from the tent. Later, when he was home, he pulled down all the blinds, sat at a table, rubbing his hands together greedily, picked up a bin, said the word abracadabra, and as he was about to drop it, he thought, "Now I must not think of a white elephant." But he had thought of a white elephant in doing this, and as the bin hit the table, he saw with dismay that it remained a bin. Again and again, he tried the magic formula, and each time he thought of the white elephant, until he was nearly crazy with frustration and anger. The white elephants of life. A fable, but a true one. The white elephants of fear, frustration, greed, selfishness, hate, monopoly, envy, resentment, jealousy, and avarice rise before our eyes and blur our vision when we try to manifest riches and abundance. We must get rid of these white elephants that haunt our minds before we can accept abundance. 3. Ignorance. Here is one of life's most fatal diseases. It infects the social body of our times and makes millions of people poor. It is not economic poverty that makes half our nation live in substandard conditions. It is ignorance of the laws of nature. You have more abundance than you can use, but man-made laws of production and distribution doom half the people to live in eternal poverty. Wasted resources. Did you know that this country produces more than enough of butter, milk, eggs, oranges, potatoes, and meat to feed the entire world? And yet, the populations in India, China, Japan, Africa, and many other parts of the world never know what it is to get enough to eat. What happens to the overabundance of food we produce in this great country? I have seen thousands of gallons of milk poured into the Los Angeles River to keep the prices high. I have seen millions of tons of oranges and potatoes burned to keep the tables of America empty of these commodities and hold up the high prices. You pay nearly $1 a pound for butter, but the government is paying millions of dollars a day for storage of butter. Their answer to the question, why, is that it is an economic necessity to produce less food, for if too much is produced, the farmer does not get a fair price for his crops and will suffer. This is a poor argument and is due to the ignorance of nature's laws of supply and demand. There is an abundance of everything man needs to feed billions of people, but ignorance holds man back from accepting the abundance that God has created for all his creatures. Wisdom is the answer. You can acquire knowledge and wisdom to cope with the world in which you live. You cannot stop the march of time, but your little addition to the wisdom and knowledge of the world can eventually work to elevate the standards of the world and bring peace, plenty, and abundance to every human being who lives. An ancient Arabian proverb states, "Men are four. He who knows not and knows not he knows not. He is a fool. Shun him. He who knows not and knows he knows not, he is simple. Teach him. He who knows and knows not he knows, he is asleep. Wake him. He who knows and knows he is wise. Follow him." 4. Laziness. There is a scientific word, abulia, which is very beautiful, but which means lazy or indolent. This very often keeps people from coming into the abundance which is all around them. Such people develop an inefficient personality that makes them shabby and careless. No one wants them around because they contribute nothing to progress or life. Laziness is a disease that can be cured. A good constructive program of activity that one likes is a sure cure for laziness. A desire to accumulate money, to become famous, to achieve something outstanding, all help overcome this tendency to be idle and live in poverty. 5. Low standards. It's amazing how many thousands of people live in shabby, ugly surroundings because their standards are so low and they do nothing about elevating them. This is due to early childhood training or sheer shiftlessness. Such people can only be shaken from their mental and physical lethargy by arousing in them a sincere desire to better their surroundings and circumstances. You know the saying, you can remove a pig from his sty, but you cannot remove the sty from the pig. Such people complain because of their limited circumstances, but actually, if the truth were known, they would not change, even if placed in the most fortunate circumstances. Peasants and palaces. In the days of the Russian Revolution, the peasants were victorious over the Tsarist forces and moved into the palaces. They fed their horses out of the fine rosewood pianos, tore down the valuable tapestries from the walls, ripped them up, and made blankets for their horses. They broke up the hand-carved antique furniture and built fires on the marble floors. They lacked the awareness of the priceless treasures they were destroying because they had never had an opportunity to develop appreciation for beauty and art. The riches that exist all about you. Right this moment you are richer than any potentate of the Far East was in ancient times. With all their millions, they could never have had a radio, a television set, a jet plane, a subway, automobile, or a tape recorder or record player. Think what such a rich potentate would have given to see a spectacle on the screen like Cinerama. You have the glory of motion pictures for a very small sum, and on TV they are free. You possess the greatness of magnificent opera houses like the Metropolitan Opera in New York. You may see and hear musical geniuses like Leopold Stokowski, Leonard Bernstein, and on records, such great conductors as Toscanini and Bruno Walter. You can still hear the glorious voices of Caruso, Flagstad, Schumann Heink, and Chaliapin, even though they are gone. You may pick up your telephone and call Europe or the West Coast in a few seconds' time, and clearly hear the voices of your friends and loved ones. There are riches all about you, if you have the vision to see them and be aware of them. These riches are yours here and now. You do not need millions to own these priceless treasures. All you need do is accept abundance. The priceless treasures of the ages. You may have the priceless treasures of the ages for the asking. In New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art has some of the world's greatest art treasures. In every big city, there are fine museums, galleries, free public exhibitions on loan from other museums. All these things are yours to enjoy and view without charge. Then think of the priceless treasures of all ages that exist in your free public libraries. There you may browse in the comfort and luxury of the company of the greatest intellects of all time. The philosophy, history, art, music, poetry, drama, and literature of the ages is stored for your inquiring mind. Enrich yourself with these free gifts of life. You do not need a fortune to enjoy these luxuries. Do you desire an estate? Perhaps you desire an estate? Have you stopped to visit your own city parks recently? In New York City, we have Central Park, hundreds of acres, beautifully preserved for the people. I often walk there and visualize it as being my own personal estate. The only difference is that I do not have to hire hundreds of gardeners to look after it. This is all done for me. I also have a private zoo in the park, which I enjoy immensely. Think what a bother it would be if you owned a zoo and had to feed the animals and clean all the cages. Yet, these free parks and free zoos and botanical gardens that most cities support are literally yours. With millions of dollars, you could never afford such vast estates and zoos. But, you may say, these things are not mine. To that I reply, is anything really yours? Henry Ford died and left a fortune of $500 million. Was it actually his? He had to leave it behind. Enjoy all the good things of life. Use and enjoy all the great free gifts of life, and as you acquire the habit of accepting abundance, you will find that your own powers of appreciation and acquisitiveness will grow until you are able to attract your own fortune and have your own estates, libraries, art treasures, and luxuries that you purchase. A famous philosopher said of life and its treasures, "Remember that you ought to behave in life as you would at a banquet. As something is being passed around, it comes to you. Stretch out your hand, take a portion of it politely. It passes on, do not detain it. Or it has not come to you yet, do not project your desire to meet it, but wait until it comes in front of you. So act toward children, so toward a wife, so toward office, so toward wealth. Enjoy all the good things of life. Take them as they come. Do not strive too desperately for the millions you want. Use the laws and principles given in this book, for they will work to bring you riches, peace of mind, health, happiness, and enjoyment. But if nature doesn't dump $1 million fortune into your lap, do not think she has failed you, nor that this book and its philosophy has failed. There are values in this world that are worth more than $1 million, and you may have these priceless treasures here and now, without having to wait for them. Take the free gifts of friendship, love, happiness, beautiful music, gorgeous sunsets, nature's beauty, bird song, oceans, rivers and lakes, mountains and deserts, music and poetry. These magnificent treasures are spread before you on the festive board of life. Partake freely. They are yours for the asking. Accept abundance. It is all about you, if you but have eyes to see and ears to hear the universal song of abundance.